Hello and welcome to the It Factor podcast. I'm here with Raj Balaguru, who is the Area IT Director at IHG Hotels and Resorts. Raj, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, Maddie.
It's fantastic to have you. I mean, we chatted a couple of months ago about your career and your journey, but you've got an extensive background in IT leadership across various industries and companies and regions as well. I mean, if you can share a little bit about your journey and what drew you to the tech industry and specifically with the hospitality and retail sectors, talk me through that.
So my career sort of started from Malaysia. I'm born and raised in Penang, Malaysia. And it's always a passion, as you're trying to learn what do you want to do. And then, as you're getting into this, studies, and then so eventually whether you want to go into a programming or you want to do support. And then while I was still in college, you attended an interview, which happens to be 10 months later that a gentleman called me back and offered me a job in a boutique resort in Langkawi Island. So that's where the whole hospitality journey sort of started. And it was a tough learning journey because it's a 24-hour business and you have to be support 24/7. So I had a driver because it was in a private island and you're living in a place where it's a bit further away. It's an isolated remote area resort. So it was a very interesting learning. Then I sort of try to grasp as much as I can, because you're trying to learn everything. So time and doesn't really matter. So I could be, working until late and trying to learn the whole 24/7 operation, which is a really, really crucial to understand the business. What does it IT actually brings to the table and then so just fast forwarding that, and then you kind of like moved along and worked in Kuala Lumpur and in different places. Then in the year 2000, you get a chance to join Marriott. And then I get a first international posting into Phuket. And it's one of the most beautiful resort and location. And it was amazing. And so from there, it's sort of grown into a much larger roles and then into a regional roles and stuff. But one thing that consistently that I see that, in the early stages, you get to go and support the hotel guests when they have issues, whether it's a Wi-Fi or tech issues. And I used to remember that even though the computers are in multiple different languages, and the guests used to be, but the icons and everything is pretty much the same. So I used to support, a Chinese language, Windows systems or anything. And they used to be like, how did you understand that? How did you do it? How could you actually be able to do these? So but at the end of the day, the guest is very happy. So that is something kind of like stick with me that, somehow I can actually had a chance to make their life or make them happy. And there's a lot of guest comments that come through. So from there, I kind of like tried to understand the technology better, and that became a passion. Then you kind of like learn. Then you got to do a degree, to get a bachelor's. Then one of my mentors that I had in Marriott, and now he has retired, then he actually said that you should go and learn not only in the tech industry, you should move into operation industry. So the hotel sponsored the MBA in hospitality and tourism.
Oh, fantastic.
So I did that. So that gave me an opportunity to move as a front office manager and become very, very tech-friendly operations manager. So we did a lot of operational efficiency rollouts and in the processes, how we can actually make it more efficient. So that kind of like gave me to understand not only the back of the house of the operation of IT technology, but also the actual front of the house operation. So after 3 years, that was a great an opportunity and a great experience. Then I moved back to IT. Then from there, because you're still in the hospitality industry, you'll be able to relate to the operations team. 100%. Every time you talk to someone, you can actually, understand what it is. And when you be able to give some example, like, have you done this on an operational background? They find that there's not many of IT people that actually understood the front end
Yeah.
of the operation.
And having both understanding of both sides
that
of the
is
business
exactly right.
is
Yes.
just so vital as well in
That's right.
implementing the right tech
Yes.
across the board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they feel like, ITs, you come out in a bit more proactive, and you become a partner, a business partner for them in understanding the technology and how the technology can help the operation. So along that way, I went all my best that I could every time, try to understand the operations more, and that seems to be another level of satisfaction and motivation, and being passionate about that technology can actually can make people's life much better. The guest stays much better, is more efficient, and then it becomes a bit more very very effective way of doing business. So from there, when you actually talk to whether it's when a hotel management operator, area roles of the GMs. So it becomes very passionate, because then they kind of like see it, because I come from background that I have front office of operations knowledge, as well as the tech background. So eventually I realized that I have the ability to be able to connect the dots between the layman and the tech world. So that's where I thought that's been a great journey so far.
I can imagine it be super rewarding as well when you can actually see the effect that, say, an IT upgrade would have on a customer.
Yes.
You can see that firsthand. You can see how happy it would make a customer, as you mentioned, happiness as well.
Yes.
Seeing that on someone's face makes such a difference, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I've involved in many, many large international events that happen, then a golf operations that happens, and the organizers flew in from a lot of different international locations. And then they go to a country where English is not the main language. So then I became part of the key communicator to connect between the operations and the tech world. So there's a lot of experience that we have done. And in part of one of the key things that I think that has been great is also I survived the tsunami in 2004 in Phuket. Wow. So the entire island was pretty much shut down. But the Marriott, the hotel that I worked, they actually became a disaster recovery hotel. So we had a lot of disaster victim identification team from different countries. And imagine for a country that English, there's not many people that really well versed in English. So I became a very key, important part of that repatriation service, working with a lot of international disaster management companies, Interpol, so because they were doing a lot of work on a recovery and sending stuff for recovery post tsunami.
I can imagine as well, you wouldn't have ever envisioned yourself in a scenario like that, but the fact that you can help those survivors of such a horrific event would have at least felt like I'm doing something.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
And you're using your skills that you already had in such an important role, I guess, as well. I mean, how did that feel? It would have been a moment of obviously mixed emotions.
Yes, it is. It is very mixed emotions, and but at least that you are there to be able to help them. And I became very fond of Thai language. Then I'd be able to communicate in local language. So when you have a lot of international travelers, that it's an amazing experience to be able to help them in that such a disaster post-recovery moment. So that was a very challenging time, because we worked hard to convert all the affected rooms into a call center. So it was a lot of stuff that we need to be done. We turn it around overnight and pull everything into setting up everything. So it was amazing experience to see. The hotel was no pets. But I've seen some of the international, the disaster victim identification team. They used to stay with an Alsatian dog in the room. So it was a very different clientele that we had. It was completely different.
Completely different.
Yes.
Not something that you were ever used to. But I think the amazing scenario about that is having everyone come together to work towards a common goal as well. That's the thing. It really shows the best and worst of humanity in those scenarios, doesn't it? Yeah. It's incredible. And I want to bring it back to that at some point, but I want to talk about your current role at IHG Resorts as well. How did you find yourself in this role? And then how does your IT strategy align with the global practices and standards as well? Because you mentioned you've got so much experience across multiple popular travel destinations. How do you align all of that to lead to your current role?
So for working with multiple MNC, global international hotel chains that I've worked on, IHG is another one. So we know that maintaining the technology standards and to follow the global standards, it's key to the operation success, and to make sure that every system, every hotel chain, they have their own ecosystem of systems in there, right from when you make a booking from the website until the reservations get delivered. There's so many things that go through in there. So following the global standards and adhering to the compliance and security and everything, it is so crucial, especially in this age. It's so crucial. And so that is actually that we make sure that anything that we do, we need to adhere to those standards. So it's not like something like a local boutique hotel. You can do whatever that you want. You feel like you know how it is. But with the global standards, multinational companies, there's a strict standards that what you should follow and you must follow. There are some that you can actually compromise. There are some that there is a must do. There is no compromise.
Exactly. It's not something that you can just try and test. You have to follow these rules. And I think as you mentioned, you've got extensive experience across multiple regions as well. What has that kind of taught you throughout your time?
So I've throughout the last 25-year career, so I've done a lot of projects in Asia Pacific, from Japan all the way to Bali, China, and in a lot of areas, different places. One thing that I realized that as you work and travel everywhere, you can always be open mind and be humble, and that's one of the key things that you can be, and try to communicate when you're not speaking a local language in Shanghai. So there is a way to how you want to be able to still get things done, because we've set up a lot of new hotels there. And in year 2002, I was posted into a city in Chongqing, which is had 30 million people at that time, as one of the highest Guinness record in highest population in a single city council.
Wow.
So I was there for 3 months, and then we recognized all the IT team members, which were never recognized before. So just inspiring people, motivating people, and giving them the opportunity to shine. And then today they are also the IT leaders and the hotel leaders in Shanghai. So that is something that I think that it is very, you feel good about it, and then you feel proud that you actually made an impact on somebody's life to do better. So I think that is actually one of the key things that you can work, and as long as you stay open, positive, and stay humble, I think diversity is you can actually get things done.
I think diversity is a beautiful thing when you get it right as well, and when you can embrace it. But I mean, I want to talk a little bit around implementing new technology. So let's go a little bit technical to start off with here.
Yeah, sure.
So you've implemented and spearheaded numerous tech implementations across your career, your 20+ year career, including cloud migrations and VoIP systems as well. But maybe if you can share a particularly challenging implementation initiative that you've led, and what lessons you might have learned from that.
So it's a great question. So in year 2015, I was posted as a GM of technology for Oaks Hotels. So I got transferred, and I was based out of Sunshine Coast. So the company had about 45 hotels, and we had about 5 to 10 team members in IT at that point. And so the company was actually looking to, minimize the cost. And they had a big call center in Brisbane. So they would like to minimize the costing. So one of the ideas that came through over a time to move the call center to Manila in the Philippines. So we outsource it. So that was one of the challenging project, because then whatever the systems that they had may not be necessarily scalable, but the business demand or requirement is that we want to be able to hire a group of reservation team out of Manila, and then we need to make our system available, that they need to be able to make the booking. So that was the business decision. So now that I just have to go in and look at it, how can we do this? So that was a very interesting and very challenging project. Eventually we get it done, and we had to go through implementing a few additional technologies to be able to extend the network until from Australia all the way there, and they be able to log in and check the availability and be able to make reservations for all the callers. So out of the 45 hotels, they had about close to more than 100 telephone numbers that need to be forwarded during the office hours, that when the call center in Manila opens, so from 8 o'clock in the morning, the calls or everything get diverted to there. So anybody calls, if you call a hotel in Brisbane, it'll be answered someone in Manila. In the evening by 7 p.m. and the reservations call center shuts down, closed for the day, then all the calls has to come back. So it's a very dynamic phone system that we had to select. We go through a rigorous process. So then we want to be able to see how we can actually have a recording done, how we can actually do a call quality and recording for training purposes. So there was a lot of expanding the network infrastructure is one of the main requirement. It's huge.
Yes, and the network availability in certain regions it's different. It varies as well.
Yes. And having a dedicated infrastructure from Australia to Philippines, you have to make all that understand to the senior leadership team that now that you are sitting in the head of IT, and then you need to be able to explain to the chief financial officer and the CEO of the company and say that this is what it's going to cost, and this is what it's going to happen. And they were not very upcoming or forthcoming initially. But eventually, we said that let's look at this option and try what we can do for infrastructure. And then later, over the time, the technology cost will actually go down. So then we actually picked a solution that we can not locked in a long contract. So then we can always review that after 12 months period. So that, so at the end of that project, we became we got an award out of the head office company in Bangkok. Because we part of that, I think they managed to reduce at least about 40% of the operating cost by moving, all the reservation center to Manila. So that was a great success project. It was
really fantastic. I mean, what's the time frame for a project like that?
It was actually took about between 3 to 6 months. Yeah.
And you mentioned a really interesting point about communicating with the rest of the C-suite as well.
Yes.
And it is a fine art to communicating with them. Definitely. I mean, how did you find the best strategy was to explain the full project to them and the costings? And was it spelling it out to them? Was it actually going, hey, this is exactly what it's going to cost you line by line? What was your best strategy there?
So the key thing is to openly communicate that this is what I know, the cost today, this is what I don't know. So you always keep that communication open instead of going out there, yes, I can do it, and then go ahead, and then you try to go and tell your team that you need to make it happen. So if it is an unknown, keep it honest, keep it straightforward. And the CEO didn't want any surprises at the end. Anyone in the C-level suite, if it's going to hit you, the cost, and this is what it's going to be, tell them. And if you want to tell them, let them know.
Yeah.
And tell them like, okay, this is what it is. But then you also have to translate the key points from technical to non-technical to keep it very, very simple and in a layman term. Top line. And then they'll be able to, and just break it down. Tell them for communications, cost of these is going to cost X. And then this is what, if you don't do it, what is that going to affect if you're not going to get these? So to do that, I have to understand the capability of a current system, even though I just joined and there was like less than 3 months in the role. So it is, I come from international, hotel background, whereby this current, it's more of a strata management, it's a bit more service apartment. They use a very different system. They work on a different Citrix technology, which typically in a hotel, we don't use that. Every hotel has a, infrastructure, individual hotel, but this business model, we only pretty much lease from the existing building owners and they lease the individual units, and then we'll sell it in a retail market. So it's a very different business model, which I think it is a great business model. And but still, that is what exactly that you have to understand, that what are you getting into to understand the business. So I spent a lot of time talking to the hotel GMs. What is crucial? What is your pain points? What is you think that you want us, the technology team, to do better? So you take that core, and then you have a support of some of the key stakeholders. So the C-level, they'll actually look down. So when we actually propose a solution or explain the challenges, it needs to connect the dots. It is not something that you picked up and out of nowhere and then thinking this is from a hotel, this is the problem. No, it is not, because the mass of the 45 hotels that we had, how many calls that you had. So we need to know that there is 3,000 calls that comes in every day, and then we need to be able to record that. There's a lot to process, because the telephony system is another component, network systems is another component, and then we had also a major challenge where we at that point, the hotel was unable to know who are the most loyal customers. So for example, if you stayed in a 5 different hotels in this particular group, they're going to have 5 different profiles. It's not going to be a consolidated profiles, just like a loyalty program today. You stay in 5 hotels, they give you 5 nights. Hey, now you're in a goal or something like that. They never had that capabilities. So we had to hire another data scientist and to be able to cleanse the data, and then we went into a cloud infrastructure that be able to get the input of the extract of the daily guest database and then cleanse it. And then we implemented Salesforce Marketing Cloud to be able to generate campaigns to the guests that, hey, it's your birthday, emails.
Yes.
Thank you for staying with us.
And there's small details that make the world of difference, I think. I think about when I receive an email from maybe a loyalty program that says happy birthday. It does trigger that in me going, oh, I need to stay at that hotel again, or I need to go to that restaurant again. It does make the world of difference, I think. Yes,
it's a small email, but then it's great that for you to see that as a pleasant surprise. Oh, they remember.
Yep.
Oh, okay, it has a very good and positive registration in your subconscious mind. Oh, that's I know that hotel. They remember. So it's always have a positive impression.
And in order to send those campaigns, you mentioned though, you've got to have that certain level of data maturity as well.
Exactly
and
right.
So, and I mean, you've seen and you've worked within many a hotel over the last 20 plus years, as we've mentioned, and you've seen the emergence of new technology throughout that time. So you've seen the transformation happen firsthand
that's
at all these hotels.
Yes.
I mean, what's been the most significant technology transformation that you've, I guess, witnessed that's made such a difference to the hospitality industry? There's probably been a couple, but cloud's probably up there as well. Yeah,
cloud is one of the telephony system. This one, when I was in Singapore, we actually adopted a cloud telephony system because we had about 10 different offices. From Singapore, we were operating in Bali, in Phuket, Bangkok, China, Hong Kong, and Tokyo, Okinawa, and Gold Coast. So those are our offices. So we were implementing this VoIP phone system. So then instead of you making an international call, when you're calling someone, you can call them by an extension. So that was a great early adopter that I actually did that in some time in 2017, 2018, when I went back to work with the Merit Vacations Worldwide. So they were implementing, began rolling out. They rolled out that in US, and but here in Asia Pacific, not all the countries allow for VoIP technology because of they're afraid some of the countries to lose their telecom revenue. So Australia is fine, Japan is okay, Hong Kong is good, but China is still not open at that point.
Yeah,
they have their own system.
Point.
So that was a great a challenge that we actually eventually we got it done. It took a bit of time to implement, but then that kind of like brought all the teams together. Then now that you'd be able to call anyone by extension, with even though they are sitting anywhere, and the app was loaded on their phone, so they could be traveling anywhere. You can still reach them. So that enabled people work from home. You can work from different countries. So that was good to be able to implement and
enabled that mobility as well, I think.
That's it.
And that connection, but with being anywhere in the world. I think that's an incredible example of how technology can make such a difference in the hospitality industry. But you also mentioned that you were an early adopter of that. But do you find that the hospitality industry as a whole is an early adopter or is a little bit hesitant to explore new technologies?
I would say they are not the early adopters.
Yeah.
They
watch and follow.
They watch and follow, and there is got to be a way to connect the dots, to explain to the asset owners, to say that what are you getting out of it. So I always find that you got to be a bit more commercially astute when you actually sell the technology or promote the technology to C-suite or to the hotel owners, that you got to be very commercially, you got to think the way that they think. And I always tell them that you got to spend the money as though that you're spending your own money. So that is what I kind of like follow as a rule of thumb, because that seems to be getting across things done. So since I've joined in the last 2 years, all the hotels, we have done a lot of different projects and a lot of operational efficiency. So one of the key one that I really proud to go with is also when we were choosing TVs for all the hotels that we were looking at it. So we were choosing Samsung and LG as an enterprise grade hospitality TV. Then we had then I thought that there was Philips. So as I was going through the whole costing and everything and checking the technical capabilities and everything, then even my owners came back and said that, what? Probably we should just go with what we already tested. It works. Why you want to go and try innovate something new? So I said that, then I go back and do a bit more work with a vendor. Give me a reference site. Why? And then they came back one point that even the vendor himself that they didn't realize.
Okay.
That is actually Philips TVs actually produces or consumes 50% less power.
Wow.
Because it's the Dutch-based product, and it's governed by European Energy Commission, which is more efficient. So that opened up, a lot of ESG governance.
Yes,
part of
that's such a light bulb moment. I felt like a light bulb turned on in my head just then, because that can make such a difference to your footprint,
That's it.
Your environmental footprint, which is something we don't always consider when implementing new technologies as well.
That's right. Wow. So when I take that back and to my boss and the owners, and they were very, very positive, like, wow, okay, this actually does much better. And then we looked at, all other, the aesthetic, how does it look like, what's the benefit and everything. So eventually, we chose Philip, but I believe I also made a calculation. What is the percentage of the reduction in energy consumption that will happen for a hotel? At that time, I was doing it for the first hotel in Coogee in Crown Plaza. So we actually worked with the engineer, understand the energy bill, what's the rough calculation for the energy from the rooms, and then I made a very, very conservative consumption, that how much it could actually serve on per annum basis, as if you go with a Samsung or an LG TV, based on the consumption. And the formula behind was based on number of hours people watching TV and the occupancy.
Yes.
So I've taken the very lowest formula. Okay, you're going to be saving about, whatever X amount, and which is a very significant savings. So coming back to the point, when you look at the technology, don't look at the technology as this is what we're going to buy, take it, but you got to try to connect the dot to the business bottom line. And if you can do that, I think that actually, really makes the journey and the decision to actually invest in a new technology a lot more easier.
I completely agree. And I think it's something as well, looking at, sometimes when I talk about with other tech leaders about these certain projects, transformation projects, is there's two different sides to it. There's one where they actually had a challenge that was evident to them, or a gap that was evident to them that they had to fix or fill. But then sometimes they didn't realize the potential of the emerging technology. They thought, oh, you know what? Why fix what ain't broke?
Yeah, that's it.
And if they didn't explore that option like you did, they wouldn't have known that they could save. They had those cost savings, that environmental footprint savings as well. It's incredible when you think about it that way. So it is a bit of a double-edged sword, I think.
It is.
When it comes to innovating and new technologies as well. But look, I want to talk a little bit around balancing tech and the human element too. We had a discussion when we caught up last time about this, and you previously mentioned to me the importance of maintaining that human element in the automated process as well. So automating has become a huge key aspect in the hospitality industry that's saved us operational hours. But how do you ensure that technology enhances rather than replaces that human touch?
So there is a myriad of systems that we actually use in hospitality. So where it actually makes it more simplifies with the AI and all that stuff. It's when you're looking at the for revenue management tool that it pulls the data of a past historical data and how the room rates and everything. This is what the revenue management they do it. So they have all these systems. They pull all these data and then they use more enhanced technology these days to be able to sort of based on the past trend. And then they will predict the future trend. Having said that, there's a caveat when that happens. So one of my friend that works in another hotel that also works in the revenue management, that he mentioned that because COVID actually had a very different pattern, never had before historical data. So what this revenue management system, they actually pull all these data and then they predict what the future, what is your rate supposed to be in the for this particular date in this month in a particular city. But because of the COVID, so they had to go back to the vendor and readjust the algorithm because what is the system predicting based on that past historical data.
It's going to be off
it was
with
off.
COVID. This predictive analytics won't work.
No.
Now that we're in a global pandemic.
Yeah,
it's such a good point.
So that's one. So now that we are in a sort of past 2-3 years after COVID, so now things are coming back. There was a trend of revenge travel, and then sort of there was people like, I want to travel because you're stuck in the house.
I remember thinking, get me out of this country, and then eventually I got to go to Bali as my first trip back after COVID, but everyone, it was just this rush to travel again, wasn't it?
Yeah. There was a huge surge in travel because everybody want to just travel everywhere. So that was one of the things. And now kind of it is settled, and obviously the trend is kind of it's growing, it's in demand, it's actually growing. So coming back to your technology, to your question, how technology takes it where it replaces, where it helps, and where it becomes too much. So for forecasting tool, that's great, but when it comes to a technology like a QR code, that actually simplifies the process, to order it. But if you were to work in a hotel with a limited service, not a luxury tier, then a kiosk check-in, you may accept it. It's fine. In an airport hotel, you've been there many times. You want to be able to get to your room as soon as you arrive. You go to that kiosk counter, you take your keys, and then you go to your room. But if you're in a holiday destination, you come with the 2 kids and if it's a family, I want to have a baby cot in the room. I want to have an extra bed in there. Can I get a room that has a view? So that's where I think the simplifying, putting in kiosk may or may not necessarily help. Yeah. If it is just a standard couple, we booked a suite room. We got it. We know what it is. I can go.
And you want a smooth check-in experience, then maybe. But if you've almost got that customized check-in experience, it is nicer to have a person standing at the reception.
That's it. And if you're paying, in a busy hotel, it's fine. But if you're going to go into a 5-star hotel, you're saved up for this vacation, and you're going up into paying $500 or more or whatever, that you feel that you're luxury, and then you are really going there. The element of human touch, if it's there, someone welcomes you and then give you a cold towel or put a flower garland around your neck and welcomes you, that just takes it to the personalized touch, which you will not get that from a kiosk check-in counter, and it goes straight to the room.
Yes.
So that's where the technology should actually be able to empower the staff. So that means some of the high-end ultra luxury hotels that I've seen, that they are actually ushering the guest to the room, and they're also offering services like, obviously you can do the casting, you can order. But if you like to have something that, for any occasion that you're coming here, please let me know. I can organize something for you. There's a great places, restaurant around. So we can, to organize that, we empower the front desk staff to be able to, have all the tools that they are empowered with, that they can get those information based on what the guests demand. So that's where, the technology, it is not in front of the guests, but the person who deals with it as a butler or curator.
Empowers the staff member.
Empower the staff member. They can make that.
Elevates that experience.
That's where the human touch comes in, as opposed to, can you search by yourself? Yes, you can. If you are millennials and you wanted to be able to do it. But if you come in to a location in a hotel, if the staff can actually say that, hey, there's a great seafood restaurant, I think that if you're looking for it, you should try it because it has a great rating. I think that would save you sometimes some peace of mind, and it's a pleasant surprise, and it's great.
Well, even with the automated process, if say there was the automated check-in for someone that wants to check in quicker, it allows that staff member to spend more time with the people that want that personalised touch as well, doesn't it? It opens up that time.
That is correct. Yes.
It does make such a difference, and we could talk about this, I think, for hours on end. But I want to go back to when we were talking about you being a tsunami survivor, but also turning the hotel into the crisis centre. And I guess that's going to be a key point in your life that changes your life and changes your perspective on life. But how did it change your perspective on how IT can help people as well? Because technology was a huge part of that crisis centre. So did it change the way you looked at IT?
Yes, it gives you a bit more of a perspective that you're actually helping the families, and at that point of time, to make it more efficient, that the families that lost, the people that lost, and people are actually looking for people, and then you don't know, they are clueless, and then they just lost, and then the technology actually helping them to identify that you are getting the right person, So that's where I find it. It's a very emotional. It's a very, very touching that you actually being part of that process to be able to help the families, and put an end to their, story.
Yeah. And how did it change, I guess, your way of leading as well? Did it have any effect on you as a leader in general, not just an IT leader, but a leader in within a company? Yeah,
I think you realize that the life is actually, in a way, it is short. One day, a lot of people that in Thailand at that time that were the victims were on vacation. So imagine today that you go for a vacation and there is no guarantee that you're going to come back. So it teaches you as a person that, why don't you enjoy and appreciate that everything that we have, and then not taking things for granted, and always be kind and humble to people, and there is no, it doesn't cost you anything.
to be nice, does
Yes,
it?
yes,
Doesn't
yes.
cost you anything to put
Doesn't
a
cost
smile
you
on your
anything.
face
Yes,
and
yes.
say hello and
Yes.
be humble.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic point. And just to kind of finish us off as well, for anyone that's, I guess, feeling inspired by listening to this conversation and wants to travel down the route of being a tech leader and maybe in the hospitality industry as well, what advice would you have for them?
I would say the advice that I think that for you to be able to deconstruct the IT terminologies and everything and speak it as a layman term and be a bit more, if not very well versed in a commercially astute aspects. So technology is technology. There's always expensive. People not going to just come in and say that, yeah, I'm going to buy everything new because you said so. So always try to look at it, from the person that who actually investing, get the business benefits and what's the really going to help the journey of the customer. In that way, you probably will have a better success in getting what you want at the same time, as well as making the guest journey, much more, meaningful for them when they come and stay. The hotel meant to be like people come and stay, because for their anniversaries, for their special moments, special occasions.
Yeah.
So we are just there to provide the technology to be, can help make that journey and experience an
Even
amazing
better.
one.
Yeah. Well, Raj, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate you coming on the It Factor podcast, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, the opportunity.